Alright guys, so we're doing volume today, so I already have the formula written here. It's length times width times height. So, it can also be written as you see over here to the side, LWH. When you see that, that just means you're going to multiply all of these. So, to show you where these numbers lie, the length is here, down at the bottom. This is your length. Your width is this right here, is how wide something is. And then your height is always going to be the part that goes up and down. Okay, so we have length, width, and height. So this question asks how many cubes with a side length of 3/4 would need to be in here to fill this prism. So this is a rectangular prism. A rectangular prism is a 3D rectangle. So think of a shoebox. So pretend we have this shoebox and we want to take ice cubes or dice. Dice are cubes. Cubes are squares, 3D squares, and we were trying to fill this shoebox with those. So first thing we need to do is figure out the volume of the whole shoebox first. So we're going to take length, which is 2 1/4, times width, which is 3, and times your height, which is 1 1/2. So I would do, convert these to decimals and then multiply. So this is 2.25 times 3 times 1.5. So I'm just going to do these two together first, and then I'll multiply that answer by 1.5. So we have 2.25 times 3. Remember, we don't have to line up the one column. We just line up all the way to the end. So we have 5 times 3 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 3 times 2 is 6, and then we're 2 behind. We have 2 places behind the decimal and 0 here, so we're going to move that decimal 2 from the left, 1, 2. That answer is 6.75. Now we're going to take 6.75, times 1.5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 7 is 35 plus 2, or excuse me, is 35 plus 2 is 37. 5 times 6 is 30 plus 3, which is 33. We're done there. Make sure you put your 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 6 is 6. Add all of those numbers up. We get 5, 12, 11, 10. And then we have 2 behind the decimal, 1, so we're going to move it 3 times. So we get 10.125. Okay, so that's the volume of the entire shoebox. And we label that inches cubed now because we have 3 measurements that we are multiplying, not 2. So instead of squaring, we are cubing. That's where the word cube comes from. So now we have to figure out the cubes, and we need to figure out what 1 cube, the volume of that would be. So a cube looks like this. This is going to be a very bad drawing. I'm not good at that, and you guys know that. So this is kind of like a cube, right? So they're saying that each side, so the length is 3/4, the width is 3/4, and the height is 3/4. So we're going to take 3/4 times 3/4 times 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to take these two and multiply straight across first. So we get 9 over 16, and multiply by 3/4 again. And I'm going to get 27 over 64. Okay. Now I'm going to solve this as a decimal. So 27 on the inside. Remember, numerator inside. And 64 on the outside. Well, we know 64 is not going to go into 27, so we can put our 0 in our decimal, subtract, and add our 0 behind. Alright, 64 into 270. Okay, so we can go into it 4 times. You can see my work down here at the bottom, 256. Then we're going to subtract. So you get 4, 1, so we have 14. We have to add that 0. Now we need to figure out how many times 64 can go into 140. The closest we're going to get is 2. Let me add that up real fast just to make sure. We get 128. 3 minus 2 is 1, we get 12. 0. It looks like this may be a decimal that goes on for a little while. So the next number is 1, just so you guys know. Alright, then if at all possible, I want you to get a calculator. You can use the one in your computer because this is going to be really difficult to do and you're not going to have enough space on the screen. You're going to take 10.125 and divide that by 0.421, and that will tell you your total amount of cubes that would fill this prism. Okay, that answer was 24. So if you do that on a calculator, it's going to be a little bit easier. You're not going to get a perfect number. You're going to get 24.0498812, and I'm sure the numbers keep going, but you can assume 24 is what that answer is. The decimal behind, or the number behind the decimal doesn't tell the ones place to go up, so your answer is 24. So this question says movers are filling the truck below with cube-shaped boxes. If each box has an edge length of 3/4 of a yard, how many boxes will fit in the truck? This is the same thing. So you need to find the volume of this box first, then the volume. So let's see, volume of shoebox. We're going to say that. Or the truck, I guess I should say. They tell you that part. Volume of the truck, so think of like a semi-truck. And then they're putting cubes in there that are 3/4 of a yard. So you need to find the volume of the cubes. And then you want to divide volume of truck by volume of cubes. Okay, so I'll kind of I'm going to do the math paused and then it'll bring it up for you. I'll kind of explain it, then I'll pause it and go to the next step, and then I'll show you step 3. Okay, this is the truck up here. So I did 4.5, which was the length, 4.5, which is the height, and the width is 6. I multiplied all those together. I just used my calculator today. I am totally okay with you doing that since we have a lot of decimals. Is 121.5. Then the cube, the lengths of each side of the cube, and you need 3 of the lengths. Each side, because it's a cube, they're squares, meaning they're the same length. We have 3/4. I converted that to the decimal, which is 0.75. So I did 0.75 times 0.75 times 0.75, and you get 0.421. So that's the first part. We found the truck and the cube. So now that last third step is to take 121.5, divided by 0.421. When you do that in your calculator, you are going to get a pretty big number. You're going to get 288.598575. So we're going to round that up in the boxes that we can fit. So we have 288.59. If we round it up, we're going to go over. So we're going to either round up or round down, is what I should have said. But we cannot round up because if we do 289, it's not going to fit into the truck. You're going to be out of room. So we're going to do 288. Okay, so in that case, when you're trying to fit something within something else, make sure that you're not necessarily rounding up. Okay, if there's, if they're saying it's a closed space, if I had to put 289 boxes in that truck, one of those boxes is going to be hanging out. So we had to do 288. So this is the same type of problem you need to solve for your box here first. Then you want to solve for the cube, and then you want to divide. Okay, this one is just total volume. So all you need to do is take 1 times 1 2/3 times 2 1/3. Remember, you can convert these to decimals for your calculator. If you don't remember how to do that, figure out what these are as improper fractions. So 3 times 1 plus 2 is 5/3, and then you can put 5 divided by 3 in your calculator, and that'll give you the decimal, which is 1.67. And then 1/3, so this is the same type of thing. We have 3 times 2, which is 6, plus 1 is 7/3. Put that in your calculator. you get 2.33. Multiply all those together, and that gives you your volume. You're going to have to convert it back into a fraction, and I will show you how to do that in just a second. So after I put this in my calculator down here, I got 3.841. Remember, we can, okay, so you're going to get, let's see, you're going to get 3.8911. Alright, so I'm going to ignore these ones and I'm just going to look at 89 over 100. So what we can do is, if you just kind of look down at the bottom, let's look. So 3 and 3, one of these is going to be the one that works because 4 is not. Our whole number is 3, not 4, so we can cut those out. So now we can look at 89 over 100, and we can kind of see, alright, let's just think. Let's just put 1/9 in the calculator. I'm just going to encourage you to do that. Use this opportunity to check with your answers first. So we know it could be 3 1/9 or 3 8/9. So I'm just going to put 1/9 in the calculator, and that gives me a decimal point 1 repeating. That's not the same as 89.891111. So let's try 8 over 9. And we get 0.88888 repeating with, and then it goes to a 9, so that means we have 0.89. So 3 8/9 is going to be the one that works. I know the decimals aren't exactly the same, but that is because we took this 1.67 and 2.33. These numbers actually go on forever, but instead we kind of cut them off, and this is going to be the closest we get. So same thing here, we're going to have to cut it off, and this is going to be your answer. Simon needs 450 cubic feet of space to transport his equipment. Well, alright, there might be a repeat in my sound, I apologize, but Simon needs 450 cubic feet of space to transport his equipment. This is the truck bed. We need to figure out if it's going to fit. So what you're going to want to do is multiply these numbers. It either needs to be 450 cubic feet, or it needs to be bigger. If it's less than that, this truck isn't going to work for him. So you remember, you're going to take your three numbers and multiply them together. So we have 11 1/4 times 4 1/2 times 9. Use your calculators is what I'm going to encourage you to do. And then if it's more than 450, it's going to work. If it's less, it won't. Alright, you're having a lot of repeat problems in this, which is good. It's extra practice. So all I'm going to tell you for this one is length times width times height. That is volume. Okay, volume is a capital V, and everything else is lowercase. You're going to need to know that. The hints help you with that. They show you, and you can also use these buttons to tell you what these words mean. You can use the hint too. That's all I'm going to tell you for this. That's your formula. Same thing as before, length times width times height. Very similar to the truck problem earlier, this needs to fit 10 cubic yards of equipment. This truck has to be more than 10 cubic yards. If it's less than that, it will not work. Alright, that's the end of that lesson. So make sure on the two-step problems you solve the volume of both the full shoebox or truck and the boxes they're putting into it. Divide those out. Use length times width times height when you're solving for volume. You are more than welcome to use your calculators on this. You're going to have a lot of decimals, so make sure you're remembering how to convert those decimals. If you don't know a fraction, maybe the fraction is 4/9. You put the 4 in first, that's your numerator, then the divide sign, and then a 9, and that'll give you your decimal. Only use 2 decimal places behind, so the hundredths place. It'll just make things a little bit easier for you as you go along. So that should be it for this one.